if you look in the Bible, fasting rarely, if ever, occurs on its own. It's always hand in glove, always hand in hand with prayer. The two things are meant to go together. And I think the idea with fasting is that we're sacrificing. We're giving something up, if you will, in spending the time that we would ordinarily spend in either eating that meal or whatever it may be, or we're taking that earnestness, that sacrifice, the element of sacrifice, and the time that would be set aside to imbibe or to partake, and devoting that to prayer. And I think there's a sense in which what we're saying when we fast and pray is we're not, there's no guarantees associated to fasting or anything like that. But I think what we're saying is it's doing with our actions what we're saying prayer ought to be anyway. It's a pleading with the Lord. It's a pouring out of our hearts. When we sacrifice, we're saying, we're desperate. Yeah. We're serious here. We want you to hear. We want you to answer. And we're so desirous of you hearing us and answering that we're willing to forego food, we're willing to forego a meal, whatever it may be, and devote ourselves to prayer. And so I think all of those things kind of fit together. And there's a sense in which it is meant to convey a seriousness that we mean what we're doing here. We're not just going through the motions, right? We mean what we say, and we say what we mean. And I've oftentimes found in my own life, when I have fasted, and when I've fasted for more than a meal, like let's say for a day, 24 hours, that it's usually toward the end of that period that my prayers begin to get more intimate and more fervent. There's a seriousness about my prayer life toward the end of that time of fasting. And there's something about maybe it's just my attention is more focused upon the Lord. I'm not as tired. I'm not as weighed down at the end of the day because I haven't been eating, and I'm still alert, and I'm channeling that alertness, if you will, on the Lord. And I think all of those things kind of fit together.
I think there's something similar there spiritually to the Sabbath, to I should say the Lord's Day, because it seems as if this is what pains me so much, because we have morning and evening services at our church. I know not every church practices that. It's really encouraged in our denomination. But the attendance in the evening service is almost always in churches less than half of what the attendance is in the morning. But there's a peculiar spiritual blessing and benefit to the evening service, whereas when you are practicing the Lord's Day and you are ceasing from your labors and resting, it seems like it takes like a whole service and an afternoon to like flush the week out and spend that time in particular Lord's Day communion with the Lord and His people, that there's a different sense to the evening service. That's and right. A different spiritual intimacy with the Lord and with the people of God, that I could see a very similar thing happening kind of after an extended period of fasting.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Great analogy.
And we see kind of the wisdom of the Lord working in this too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the wisdom of man would say you gain strength by eating.
Yeah.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
But the wisdom of the Lord, which is counter to the wisdom of man, is you gain that spiritual strength by foregoing something that you need for life. And I think you mentioned that in the book, where when you're fasting, you're fasting from things necessary for life, to show that urgency, to show that presentation of things before the Lord. And that's such a helpful correction, where most of the time when I talk to someone about fasting, like, I'm fasting from Facebook, or I'm fasting from Xbox. It's like, I don't think that word means what you think it means, right? Like that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about fasting.
One church where the pastor was fasting from guitars. I was like, okay.
They're not necessary for life. Like, that's our entertainment.
That's right.
You probably do need to set it aside for a while, but that's not fasting.
Right. Temperance and restraint in all areas of life is always a good thing and a virtue. But yes, the food here is a very physical nature, a physical thing that also that physical drive, the hunger, also compels us to remember what we are committing ourselves to.
Well, and I think especially too in a day or in a day and an age in which we have everything. And most of us, the biggest struggle we have probably in the West is that we overeat. We eat too much. And for us, fasting may be more important than it has been for previous generations and previous ages, previous places. Yeah.
I think so. It's a particular struggle.